goldfinches this time of year make crazy noises. Kind of hard in the wind, to be honest. A high school teacher, more or less. Yeah, I was a pretty competitive runner and athlete. Had a bad injury, had a tense relationship with a coach, and then all of a sudden I had a lot of free time when I stopped running, like lots and lots and lots and lots. I had a lot of energy. I was even though I can be calm and peaceful, I also can be a bit spastic and energetic. Yeah, so all of a sudden I had this free time, and there was this teacher at my school, and he ran like an outdoor club kind of thing, a wilderness club. And I heard he was really cool and let you do whatever you wanted outside. You didn't have to sit in study hall. So I was like, I'm in. I can move, I can go outside. So literally that was it. I come from Monmouth County, New Jersey. Yeah, so about an hour outside New York City. Beautiful county down there. We moved around a few times, but great park system, which I took for granted when I was there. It just stunning. Yeah, great spot. I haven't worked hard enough to know the answer to that question. So the short answer is no. I can only really speak English and bird, I guess. So no, but maybe if I tried harder. Yeah, these days, so I just, there's a broad-winged hawk circling behind us. The last few years, when I distill it down, I say basically, I see my mission in life, my passion is to find ways to engage people in this more than human world. And that can look like a lot of things. So it's not just, we get caught in our own little bubble, our own little human story, our own little drama, which is important because it's what we need to do. But sometimes at the expense of being open to everything else going on around us. And I have found that being open to that and being in a more of a receiving mode, to hear the hawks circling, to hear the cicadas pick up their pace, the wind go through the oak trees, to me that just enriches life. And it often slows people down, and I think in many ways it helps with some of the stressors of being a part of this modern, wild, capitalist world we're currently experiencing. All of the above, to be honest. But the way I interact with most people these days is probably through a bunch of my YouTube videos and kind of digitally, which is kind of ironic. But then, yeah, a lot of classes, workshops, online stuff, in person. I do a lot of guiding for groups and individuals. And then I do some leadership work and coaching work and consulting with businesses and nonprofits, and try and bring a lot of that, how I'm informed is what I've kind of learned from the rest of this world. There's a lot of great lessons from birds, from mammals, from insects, you name it, that we can apply to how we are conducting ourselves. I don't know. Need more data, says the scientist in me. I don't really know. I tend to be a pretty darn hopeful person, and I do think there's something both depressing, damning, and just challenging when we hear about everything that's going on in the world, but it also for a lot of people is inspiring and get them to change their focus. So when I think about a younger generation of people stepping into leadership in larger, say, corporate spaces, I do think there is a good seed in there, and there is interest and there is compassion in thinking about how we are treating the rest of this planet and how that's going to affect us and future generations as well. Oh, it's going many times, still going. Yeah, it's a broad-winged hawk. It's been, I don't know what it's up to. I think it's the same hawk. It's been here last, well, it bred right down the road. But anyway, yes, right there. So I spent 2 decades of my adult life founding and running, with the help of my wife and a great team of people over time, a nonprofit that focused on what we just called Nature Connection. And it was about remembering and kind of tuning back into this. And we started mostly with youth and families, because if we don't start with kids, yeah, we have to. And so I think we have a lot of work, and that movement has grown tremendously. Is it still too small? Hell yeah. Does it need to be everywhere? Does it need to be more inclusive? Does it need to be? Yes, and it is working on that. But that's what we need to do, because you're absolutely right. I mean, he's right. I mean, it's really, and it also is a massive opportunity. Like, most people don't have a clue of all the amazing things happening right around them. And when we can just touch that curiosity, that acts as like, you know, it's like a little conduit for connection. We just have to get people, to me, it's more about like people being open and curious, than it is them really even like caring or liking nature. It's just like any relationship. It's like, you know, you learn a name and that's something, but you ask questions to someone, you learn more about who they are and what makes them tick, and that usually gets you interested, or not. You make up your mind. So yeah, so I think we have a lot of work. He's totally right. And in many ways, it may be, you know, maybe a lost cause in some ways, but I don't even know what that means. Like, I'm here and I'm alive and I have purpose and I have ability, so I'm going to use it. Like, whatever anyone else thinks. And I don't know exactly where it's going to go, but at least I'm trying. As a routine, sometimes referred to just as a sit spot. And basically, it's just a quiet sit. But I'd say the first thing you do is just slow the hell down. And this might be scary for some folks and really uncomfortable. I'm okay with that. Slow the hell down. Tune in. Just pay attention to what is happening around you. Just open your mind and your senses to like asking, what is going on? Where is the wind blowing from? What do I smell in the air? What do I hear? What do I feel vibrating? What is there anything nearby that's grabbing your attention? And then just tune into that and just be with it. So don't always have your earbuds in, right? Don't always have your head down. Don't always be engaged in reading and scrolling. Like, stop, put that stuff aside for a couple of minutes a day. Like, literally a couple of minutes was a great start. A half hour is even better, but start with 5 and just sit and be. Or if you can't sit, just even when you're walking to and from a place, just stop and start to pay attention. Like, what do the trees, if there's any, look like this time of year? What kind of birds might you hear or see or notice? What's going on with the angle of the sun or the shadows that time of year? There's so much more than our little human world and our little bubble of existence that we can be gaining so much enrichment and joy from. Definitely the latter. My friend just made a cool little hat for himself, and it says "Never Not Birding," and I definitely feel like that. For years, I taught about trees, and like, I remember one of my students being like, "You ruined me. I can never just enjoy a green forest anymore. I have to like know what's going on and identify and understand." I'm like, you don't have to, but I understand. So no, wherever I go, I am just a ridiculously, generally speaking, a ridiculously curious person, and I just want to know what's happening around me. I like to just know and try and understand and toy with, and just like what's happening, what's alive, what's real, what's here, what's now. Yeah, some people will use the term spark bird, but I like gateway too. That's great. And it's funny because I actually wasn't crazy into birds right in the beginning, but it was a great horned owl, which is a big, sexy bird, so that definitely makes sense. And I had one of my dad's cousins. She's kind of like an auntie to me. She was a public school teacher in New York City, and for years and years and years, decades. It turns out she was a photographer, and she was a nature photographer, and she used to put on these great little slideshows for us and stuff, but I didn't even understand her appreciation for birds till when she learned I was getting into going into the woods and the trails and parks. She gave me a pair of binoculars, and she gave me an old beat-up Peterson field guide to birds, and we just started looking at it, and I said, "Oh man, it would be cool if I had these, could see an owl." She goes, "Well, I bet they're back there." and that's all it took. And I was just like, I was like a hound on a trail, man, for like all the time, trying until I finally got to see an owl. And then I just started like, I was addicted to watching and following owls for as much as I could. Oh, that's a very great question. That's just, it's too many sometimes. If I'm by myself, I often will, and depending on where I am, I might bring all three. Binoculars are definitely number one for me. They probably always will be. They have been my whole life. I didn't even pick up a long lens or really a camera until 6 months ago. It's actually relatively new. And a spotting scope is a must if I'm in a group in an open habitat. So I was on a coastal habitat, so that's key, because my joy and passion is in sharing. So the camera's nice to show people in the viewfinder, but it's also kind of selfish. The binoculars can help me find stuff, put it in the scope, share it with others. And now I'm messing around a lot with digiscoping, which is super fun, where you have a little adapter and your phone goes on your scope, and that I'm learning how to share too, but I'm a little unsure, because then it's like looking through yet another screen, trying to get people off screen for little breaks. But anyway, it's awesome. So yeah, they're all great tools, and they all have a place. But the binoculars are always like on my seat in my car, or they're on me when we take walks, even if it's getting dark out. I'm like, oh, maybe there's a migrating nighthawk tonight. I'll be the one to see it. Yeah. Or there's a flying squirrel that I hear calling, and I might get to see it with a little flashlight. I don't know, but I love binoculars. What I'll do is I'll give you a link that will connect to this, that answers that question, because I get it all the time. And you can get pretty dang decent binoculars at most price ranges, starting at around $100, all the way up to 5,000. So I'll give you a link instead of try to talk about it too much, because it's complicated. But there's an answer. Well, that's an interesting question. It's funny, nothing jumps to mind right away. I feel really privileged and like super fortunate to do what I do. Although I feel like it's more like doing a better job communicating what I think I have to give to consulting clients. Like, I feel like when the people I work with, it goes really well and it's awesome, but most people often just see me as like a bird guide or a nature teacher guy, and they don't understand that part of me. And it's something I've been doing for a long time. Even when I was an executive director of a nonprofit, I started little like coffee cliques and peer groups and that. And I think it's really important to connect in that way and help people, because we're all struggling with something. And I love helping like business leaders and people with those struggles. So I think if I had more of those, I would also have more regular steady income, which would actually help me do more interesting trips and do other stuff that costs more, and then yada yada. So yeah, more consulting clients. I think inherent in this question is for me is the question of scale here. Like, what are we talking about? Human scale? Are we talking, because to me nature is so much more than human. So when you say what's the future of nature, I'm like, well, it's definitely not human. Like, I don't think much, I don't think our species the way it is right now is probably going to last terribly long, geologically speaking, probably just a blip. And that's not me trying to be doom and gloom and pessimistic and angry and sad. I think it's just the way we've conducted ourselves so far. Unless things change really fast, I don't think we're going to jive well with the rest of the planetary limitations and basically ground rules. I hope I'm wrong, but actually I don't even know if I'm wrong. But it's just that's the way I see it. But in the short term, the future of nature, I think the future of nature for humans is probably more really local, really connected with other humans. It's very much like nearby nature, like really slowing down and trying to appreciate what's here instead of flying halfway around the world to see a rare bird or a sea lion or something. Those practices aren't going to serve us well in terms of climate. It's just appreciating what we've got right here, right now around us. It's small scale stuff. It's gardening. It's it's planting trees in cities that need them to stay cool and for people to have nice spaces. It's compassionate nature. Oh yeah, literally this weekend. So one of the things I've been engaged in for a few decades is something called track and sign evaluations, or tracker certification. So there's a group on the board I serve on a committee on called Tracker Certification North America. So think of it this way, it's like Sherlock Holmes on the landscape. It is so awesome and challenging, and you basically are trying to understand through tracks and traces and trails and scats and droppings and dens and feathers and carcasses, but also beautiful, lovely things. What's going on? What animals were here? When were they here? What do we tell about them? Down to the details of like, okay, which foot of 4 on that river otter was made in that little puddle that's already been washed over, and how old is it, or something like that. I mean, it's crazy detailed stuff, but it's actually really useful because it creates very eco-literate human beings in a variety of habitats, and they can help with environmental monitoring, wildlife management. I mean, all sorts of great applications for it. And it's a growing movement that's been doing quite, it's really popping recently, and I'm excited to be a part of it and help it continue to grow.